Welcome to the Brothers in Influence podcast, where we stand to encourage, inspire, and add value in the areas of life, leadership, and community. I'm your host, Ian Williams.
And I'm Sherrod Ledet.
And I'm Shawsay Price, and together we are the Brothers.
And we are privileged to bring you a special guest who's going to bring the influence. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. Welcome to another episode of the Brothers in Influence podcast. Our special guest this week is Justin Campbell. Justin Campbell is 40 years young, and throughout his life, he has given back to youth and others by mentoring. It has been something he has done even when he was not intentionally doing so, and sometimes didn't even realize he was doing it. Now, present day, God has blessed him to write 2 books. His first book is called The New Complete You, Life Between the Lines. He used his own college football story to correlate it to the Christian journey. He believes football not only teaches youth and others about life, but also can be used to help us understand our faith walk journey. On his own, he has sold over 3,000 copies of this book since March 2017. His second book, The New Complete You, the program, is focused on character development and living one's best life through specific strategies outlined in the program. This book will help you live a more productive life by dealing with your past and learning solutions for your future. The New Complete You, the program, was released in September 2020. Mr. Campbell's profession is a mental health therapist who specializes in Christian therapy, but he is also skilled in a variety of approaches and can tailor his approach to the needs of the individual. He is also a life inspirational speaker and has spoken at the NAACP's Fall Conference in 2019, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Prayer Breakfast in Clark County, Indiana. He was a guest at the Desmond Does 6 Questions podcast, as well as a guest on the Northside Christian Care Team podcast and at the BMW Academy in Lexington, Kentucky, for over 800 students and families. Recently, he has spoken to HR representatives about emotional intelligence in the workplace at the SHRM Conference in Southern Indiana, and presented to owners and DMs as Maxim's own leadership and emotional intelligence. Ms. Campbell's mission is to encourage and inspire people to walk fully in their purpose, change direction if need be, or find purpose. Because of his dynamic personality, his energy, joy, and love the others succeed, he will be blessed to use his creative method to connect his art and propel you forward. Mr. Campbell, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Thank you for joining us, sir. So, as we look to get started, tell us a little bit something. Give us an exclusive. Tell us something about yourself that most people don't know.
Probably one thing that people do not know about me is that between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college, I played overseas in a league for 10 days.
Wow. Okay. Overseas. When we say overseas, where did you end up?
So it was through a sports ambassador program. Okay. And your coach had to, nominate you, and it was kids. You represented this team in the USA, so it was kids from like New York, all over the place. And we went over to Trieste, Italy, and Venice, Trieste, Italy, and then Vienna, Austria, I should say. And then Slovenia. So it was pretty neat. And, over there, they were a little behind in football. So you're playing men, like we're all going to college and we're literally playing men who are like, 25, 27, because they were just a little bit behind in the game. So, and I ended up actually getting offensive MVP while being there.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I imagine that was quite the experience.
Man, it was, man. Just to even go overseas, that was my first time going, and it was a great time.
Yeah, what would you say you walked away from that experience with?
I think just another level of respect of just how different cultures are. That was my first time being in Italy and just seeing different things, hearing different stuff. So just being able to understand some of the difference of cultures and how you say things, do things, all of that, right? So it was different in that way. But man, as far as playing the game of football, I mean, it's football, no matter where you go. So, you know, some people may not be as talented or skilled, but, you know, just the love of being out there with your brothers and having a good time. And, you know, these were kids that we didn't even know, but we came together in, you know, a short time to have a few practices and you know, win some games. So it was fun.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Amazing and unique. Sounds like a really unique experience.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So as a therapist, as a believer, as an inspirational speaker, you're clearly passionate about making a positive impact on others. Right? So what keeps Justin Campbell up at night?
Man, what keeps me up at night is when I feel like I didn't do enough for that day or that week.
Okay.
So, you know, naturally, you know, we all say we don't have enough time, but honestly, if we just manage our time better, we do have enough time. So, you know, how did I write 2 books? I made time, you know. So my second book, literally, I made myself wake up early on Saturdays before my family got up, and I would literally make myself write for an hour. Now, I didn't have to write more than an hour. If I got into it and wrote more, yay. But I did that during COVID every Saturday morning, just once a week. And I finished the book. So the key is, you know, we have to, what really gets me is when sometimes I can look back and I'm like, man, you could have did this. You could have did that. You know, you could have already been this much further in that, or reading this or studying this to get more adept in this or to become better in that. So that's kind of what keeps me up, is realizing that, hey, Justin, you got to keep being disciplined in your time management so that you can keep getting better and keep doing these things that, you know, you're destined to do.
Man, you know, that actually makes me think of something. As a person who is clearly holding themselves accountable and is cultivating discipline in your personal and your professional life, right? You said it's good. Okay. How do we balance the personal accountability, the discipline, with a healthy self-talk?
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So even within what I just said, right? Even though it keeps me up, it's not something that I say, oh, Justin, you are horrible, or you're never going to get there, or, you know, it's something that I say, hey, if for me, right, if I didn't do it, I'm still on the right path. But how much greater, how much more, you talk about this title, Brothers in Influence, how much more of an influence can I be when I get not only knowledge, but here's the key, is the understanding of the knowledge. Because so many people know things in their profession or their area, but do you really grasp the complete understanding so that then it can be applied as wisdom? So for me, I'm in that understanding part, right? So I got some knowledge about some stuff, but let me get the understanding to the point to where I can break it down for anybody, because now I've actually applied that. So for me, I just, you know, tell myself, hey, evaluate, where can I do better? Justin, you're still good. You still are great. You still got things that you're, you know, positive affirmations, you know, but no, though, don't get complacent. Even though, you know, I talk to myself positively, it's still, though, pushing myself in a healthy way to say, hey, you know, that hour wasn't taken away from my kids, wasn't taken away from my wife. It was a time where it could help me, but yet also it was that balance of, it's not like I'm pushing myself to the point to where I don't have any family time. So, you know, that's the key, is I think realizing even though you may not be accomplishing something, that doesn't change the value of you, but it's where could I be further?
Okay, say that one more time.
It doesn't change the value of who you are because you're not doing what you're doing, yet doing it, though, is going to propel you further.
Yes, come on, brother. I love it. I love it. I mean, that's
when you get that hit, that means you done did something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As you know, a lot of people, I think the lines get blurred, right? Between when we think about accountability, we automatically there's some level of negativity, like you did something wrong, so you need to now be held accountable, right? We think about discipline. You did something wrong, so then you need to be disciplined. So reframing the correlation just the way you did is even though very simple, is really powerful, and it's something that I've had to learn personally, which is why I kind of had you go back and reiterate it. But I know that I'm not the only person who hasn't always had a healthy mindset in those areas.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, you're exactly right.
Yeah. So, yes, sir. So when it comes to doing what you do as a professional, whether you're speaking or whether you're working one-on-one with someone in a mentor or even a therapy capacity, what would you say is your top strategy when it comes to helping people find their purpose or be at their best?
I would say my top strategy, honestly, is first off for me to be prepared. So whether I'm speaking or whether I'm getting ready for a session, if I'm not prepared, nothing else is going to work. So for me, it's a game plan. You know, I go back to sports. You can go out there and say, "Oh, we the best, and we playing the 125th ranked team out of 126 in the collegiate football." But guess what? I've seen number ones get beat by a 100th ranked team. So the key is, if you have that game plan, though, that's the start to the strategy, to the success. So for me, it's having that game plan. It's also, I would say probably one of my biggest strategies, honestly, in both things that I do, is listening. So even before I go speak, I'm in depth talking to people. What are you looking for? What do you want to get out of it, right? I think too many times as speakers, we think even if we have the same thing we talk about, sometimes we don't tailor it. We just keep using the same thing. And so sometimes as I speak, I want to talk to the owner. I want to talk to the person who's bringing me in. What is it that you're really trying to get out of it? Because this is for you all. So I don't want to just come in and give something that I've given before that, yes, it may have been great then, but how can I maybe tailor it even more for what you all need? So for me, it's really listening, and no different in therapy. I'm listening to see, hey, what are your goals? What is it that you want to get? What do you want to do? So then I can better help them and guide them to where they need to go.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, brother. It makes perfect sense. We appreciate that. And preparation, I think, kind of gets lost in translation sometimes when it comes to doing anything, right? And so thank you for reiterating that. So I'm curious, as you've been on your journey as we were kind of talking about you a little earlier about you were a natural mentor, right? You would mentor and you would speak into people's lives. You would sow into people when you weren't even thinking about it. You weren't even trying to do it. It would just happen. So it came naturally to you. So was there a fork in the road in your life that kind of helped you get to where you are? Or did you find yourself just naturally, gravitating in the direction that you're in?
Man, so one of my best stories I love telling when I'm either asked this or get a chance to tell somebody, because I think so many times in life, we all are trying to get that it factor. Like, what's my career? What's my thing? What's going to be my thing that I do, right? And I think we focus too much on it to the point of it steals our joy, it steals our peace in life. And what I've learned is if you just keep living, it'll get you there. Put yourself around the right people, it will get you there. And so for me, that was no more of a truer story. I actually, at the time where my fork in the road happened, I was working for the city of Jeff as a youth director. So I was kind of over, it was called the Nahan Fieldhouse, and I was over our community, it's kind of almost like a YMCA. Yeah. So we did sporting events there, like, youth leagues and adult basketball and volleyball, things like that. It was an after school place where kids could come. Well, man, one day I had gotten a whole bunch of free cookie coupons from Subway. So if I passed the Subway, I'd go in and get a free cookie. Well, this one time I was in Jeff, and at the time, Mr. Charlie Elder, who is a counselor at Hazelwood Elementary, But before that, he was chief of police of Jeffersonville, Indiana. And so his son and daughter actually went to Providence with me. So that's how I knew him. He's in line. I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? He's like, hey, Justin, how you doing? I'm like, what are you doing these days? He's like, man, I'm a counselor. I said, a counselor? Like, yeah, I'm a counselor. Like, how do you become a counselor from going from a chief of police to a school counselor? Yeah. And, so, man, I literally get back in the car. Couldn't pull off. And it was like God just hit me on the head and was like, hey, check that out. I tell you what, within a week, man, I literally called IUS, called their, got some information. Literally within like a month, they were having an orientation, just so happened to be about being a school counselor. Man, go to this orientation. I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting in there and I'm like, oh man, I can't even do this. I don't have an education degree. And I wasn't about to go back and get an education degree just to do it. Well, I didn't read far enough, and that's why you don't skim. So I stayed in the session. The lady goes, if you have worked in a position, a high position, because I was a manager, working with kids for at least 4 years, I left after my 4th year, then you're able to still do this program. You just have to take a 1.5 years prerequisites. So naturally did that, became a school counselor. While I was doing school counseling, I was like, man, you know what? I don't like the educational side, but I do love when kids come down and I get to really talk to them about their issues. Man, then I went back to school and got my license to be a therapist. So it really started with that one conversation, man, with that chief of police that just hit me on the head that was like, man, go do this.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. One of the themes that I hear when you share that story, first of all, I think it's amazing because you can trace from that conversation to all the work that you've done and the amount of lives that you've touched. But then also I look at it from another sense of very simple awareness. I think you came into the situation with some sense of at least who you were, and then that extended to figuring out what you feel like you were called to do, and that continued to evolve as you just continued to be who you were.
Yeah, I like that. So go ahead and hit your button. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
All right, brother, we lost.
Okay, there we go. I like what you said in regards to you already had a sense of who you were. And that's the key, right? So that goes back full circle to what I was saying about so many times we're so focused on where I've been called to, rather than if I just stay in alignment with me, I know that will attract and pull me and get me to the place where I need to be eventually. Unfortunately, even when I think about being a school counselor thing, right? There's so much pressure, like you got to know what you want to do when you leave high school. No, you don't. You just need to start getting plans. You need to start looking at things and start, taking maybe some interest inventories and things just to get an idea. And look, it's a blessing if you can leave high school and literally know. But how many people of us changed our majors in college? How many of us didn't even get into the profession that our major was in, right? So the key is school is to get you that knowledge, right? If we don't get the knowledge, it's hard to just know things. So I love that because that's the key for me. I was being me, but I knew something would come eventually. I remember talking to one of my friends when I was, because even after that job of the city, and even as I'm getting all this educational stuff, I actually went into restaurant management, which has nothing to do with what, I was getting ready to get into. But I remember literally telling one of my friends, like, hey, man, I'm just here planting seeds. He was like, oh, man, I feel that. And I was like, I knew this wasn't where I was going to stay. But while God had me here, there was things I learned about leadership. There was things I learned about managing people. There were things so again, it's making sure we understand no matter what you're doing, it's building you, it's building character, you're getting more experience. And as you just keep walking, knowing that, hey, I'm walking in the right direction, that's when, again, stuff just lines up and it happens.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And one of the things that I really love about that, and that I see in you as a peer, as a individual, is learning to have a joy for the journey. Because basically, like what you're saying is, we get so focused on the destination, we lose out on all the things that are to be gained in the process.
That's it, man. That is so it.
And so as a coach, this is a similar kind of process that I walk people through, is like, figure out who you are and what it looks like to you, for you to express the best of yourself. What are your strengths? What do you bring to the table? What do you offer to the world? Because God created you and gave you something. What do you bring that's uniquely you? And it may kind of, at first you get intimidated because you think, oh, well, somebody else is doing the thing that I feel like I want to do, and they're doing it at a high level. They may be getting paid for it, whatever. Well, the thing about it is, they can never do it the way you do it.
That's it. I love how you use that word. Express. Right? Because express means I gotta like do something. I gotta move my hands, or I gotta speak. I gotta express it, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
so many of us have that hidden jewel inside, but we're too worried about the world or people judging us and what they're going to say, that we never express it. And so the world never gets to see the greatness of you, because you're too worried about being judged or what people are going to say, rather than just confidently being you, knowing that, hey, all of us are going to have haters, but I ain't focused on the haters. I'm focused on those people who are going to receive my gift and my uniqueness. And there's one thing, I have this strengths and qualities paper I give clients sometimes, and there's one question on there that says, name some things that are unique about you. And it is always amazing that I almost always get most clients who are like, there's nothing unique about me. And here's why: because they see unique, what you were just saying. They see unique as, I gotta be this athlete, or I gotta go to the moon, or I gotta have this, banging business, or I had to have created something. No, hey, if you love really big, or you are great at forgiving, or you're just maybe this awesome baker or cook, that's unique. Like, that's your unique. And too many times we only see unique as the world sees it, rather than realizing, like, hey, there are things that even if 10 million people do it, it makes me unique as well.
Right. And we're always going to be a very unique combination of interests and strengths. So you and I might be good at some of the same things, but then there's definitely going to be some other areas where we diverge, and those as a whole, you and I are very different. And so, yeah, this is just amazing, brother. Thank you so much for sharing this, because a lot of people need to hear, and it's a lot. It really comes down to awareness. It comes down to awareness, being aware of who you are, what you bring to the table, which is something that I'm really passionate about, helping people figure that out. Because once you figure that out, and then you can start to articulate a vision for your future. It doesn't have to be the complete picture, but the thing about the vision is the picture continues to become clearer over time. So, like, you got a piece when you had that conversation, and you kept looking at the picture, and you added a little bit more nuance, and you added some more detail. Then you had another, you found another step to take, and then you added a little bit more after you lived that out, and you were continuing to be who you were in each of those spaces. You added value everywhere you went, so there was no, you didn't leave nothing on the table, right? That way you can make a difference no matter where you are.
That's it.
And then in essence, then you are living out your purpose, because it's a pure, like you said, pure expression of who you were created to be.
Yeah, I love it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I thank you so much for this conversation, brother. Look, as we're wrapping up, you have dropped so much wisdom. You talked about having that understanding, and you definitely shared it with our audience today. What are some final thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, man, especially as we are walking into the new year, I think, so many people get caught up in the New Year's resolutions and things of that nature. Man, if I was going to leave anything with people who may listen to this podcast, is focus this year on habits and discipline. I tell people all the time, habits are the thing that keep us moving in the right direction. Once I can create a good habit, it becomes my identity. So it's not I have to think about doing the thing. When it becomes a habit, it's part of me. So it goes right along with what we're talking about. We have these God-given gifts, but You know, even in scripture, it talks about add to your faith virtue, knowledge, self-control, right? So yes, we have this foundation, but then there's some things I got to add to it that I have to do myself. And so, you know, what I would really encourage people to do this year is try to remove those bad, unhealthy habits, whether it's eating, whether it's negative thinking, whether it's, you know, just continuing to, you know, talk negative about yourself or whatever it may be, you know, addictions that you may have. Really try to develop little by little habits each day that can help you to be a better you, because as you're a better you then become better for those who are around you in your space.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Sir, you have a favorite quote?
I do. So it's actually by Friedrich Nietzsche, and he talks about he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. And I love that quote, because he who has a why, when you can get your why, there's going to be all kind of stuff that comes up. But when I know my why, it don't matter what else comes up on my plate, because I'm going to get through that. I can bear it because I know here's my point, and ain't nothing going to keep me from getting to that point. And so if you don't know your why today, first off, as we just said, keep journeying, because it'll get there. But now that I know my why, hey, I just know either stuff that comes up is trying to distract me, I'm gonna keep going, or I know it's me who's probably put something in the way and I gotta remove it. But either way, I know my why. Now it's just continue to grow, continue to get better, and continue to be the blessing that God's called me to be.
Mic drop. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Justin, for joining us and sharing your wisdom and understanding. This is another episode of the Brothers in Influence podcast. We will see you very soon. Thank you. We are out.